This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
We can't put a bow on week number 1 in the NFL until we get to see Aaron Rodgers making his New York Jets debut, and that is coming up tonight. We have got the Jets taking on the Buffalo Bills out in New York. We are here to break down all things Bills at Jets by talking Monday Night Football with Ryan Williams, picking his brain on tonight's game, talking about the traditional markets, player props, and so much more to get you ready for the capper on week number 1. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a managing editor of digital media for FanDuel Research, joined here, as mentioned, by Ryan Williams. Check him out on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. Ryan, week 1 is pretty much in the books. So I got to ask, how have things gone for you so far?
Yeah, they've been bittersweet, Jim, to say the least. I mean, we started off with the Thursday night game, and we talked about that and how much I love Travis Kelce, and that kind of drove a lot of the numbers that I was getting in on KC as far as the over in the game and the Chiefs total over and et cetera, et cetera. But this is why we do it, Jim. I mean, just to be able to kind of see things, kind of come to fruition, and play out there. I was very high on the Steelers. They get boat raced. I was high on the Bears. They get boat raced. But to think about Chargers, Dolphins, we talked about that being one of the best games on the slate and that coming to fruition. This is the life that we live. And so, I think that the more that we start to get data, the better we kind of feel about things. But in an overall sense, regardless of the week, you like to see how things play out, how your takes go, and we go on to Monday night and then week 2.
Yeah, our synergy pick of the week when we talked back on Tuesday was Steelers. I had +3 and you had a +2.5. And I think the comforting thing, Ryan, is that at least we knew it was toast right away. So we didn't have to worry about that game. You cross that game off and you start focusing on, okay, are my DFS lineups doing better? They were not. Are my dynasty teams doing okay? They were not. So at least we could focus on other happier things, which also might not have been going all that great. But we do have this pretty fun game on tap for tonight between the Bills and the Jets. We're going to talk about that game, talk about what my model says about that game, talk about Ryan and where he's seeing some value in the player props at FanDuel Sportsbook, and much more. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcast, because tomorrow we got Ryan on once again. We're going to have him on here to talk about the futures market, talk about teams he is shifting up or down in his power rankings based on what he saw here in week number 1. And we'll take a look at week number 2 as well involved with that. We, of course, have Ed Fang with us on Wednesday and Thursday, JJ Zachariason and Rob Freeman on Friday, all right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network. Just search for Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on the FanDuel YouTube page and FanDuel TV Plus by going to Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or Roku, or checking out FanDuel.com/watch. And don't forget as well, our Thursday night preview with Tom Vecchia will be up later on this week with Primetime Tom getting you set for the Thursday night game later on. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, all customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700. Visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland, 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. NFL Sunday ticket offer ends 9/18/23. No refunds. Terms and embargoes apply. $100 off NFL Sunday ticket, not YouTube TV. YouTube TV base plan required to watch YouTube TV. Redemption requires a Google account and a current form of payment. Commercial use is excluded. Let's dive in now to this Bills at Jets game. As mentioned before, the Bills are 2-point favorites of the total at 45.5. We'll dig into those specific markets here in a second. But Ryan, first, I want to start on a more broad perspective and talk about this Jets team, because it's a major difference to have the Jets led by Aaron Rodgers versus being led by Zach Wilson. So I want to know, for you, entering this year, I know we talked about this a bit in free agency when the Rodgers trade first became official, but when you look at this Jets team with Rodgers, what are your overall expectations for them entering this year?
I think that my overall expectations, Jim, kind of start with this. It comes down to Rodgers and how he's playing. And I mean, the last time that Rodgers was doubted, and I was one of those people, in 2019 of thinking like this guy might be towards the end. He goes out there and wins back-to-back MVPs. I think this is a Jets team where you're looking at kind of the state of the NFL, and darlings are losing all over the place, right? Like the Chiefs, they lose to the Lions, even though Travis Kelce's out. We understand that situation. But the Chargers have been one of somebody's favorites, and, I think for Aaron Rodgers, you're coming into this division here, on the AFC East that has been, pretty stout and controlled by Buffalo for a long time. And so, he's kind of had a little bit of a reprieve being in the NFC, of just being able to coast through the NFC North and, into the NFC playoffs. And then we've seen that kind of peter off. But I think he has a chance to kind of rewrite his legacy for whatever that's worth. I mean, the guy's a Hall of Famer, but, right, talking about one of the best quarterbacks of all time, if he's able to take this Jets team who has a stout defense and has had that, and the question was only the quarterback position, I think, he's going to elevate himself, when we talk about the conversations of, the greatest to play after Tom Brady. And so you're looking at this, first game here against Buffalo and on prime time, Monday Night Football. And like, if you come out the gates and are able to, take care of business, I think that, is going to do wonders for this team.
And I think a lot of it for Rodgers comes down to how much you think the thumb injury last year was the driver for his poor play. And for me personally, given the amount of respect I have for him as a football player, I'm willing to put a lot of weight on that thumb injury because, I mean, if you think about like from a logical perspective, it's pretty tough to throw a football when your thumb's broken. That's just like how I'm trying to view it here right now. So I still feel like he's got it. And when you put a guy who has that in an offense that has okay pieces, I know the Corey Davis retirement hurts. That hurts the pass catchers a bit. And then the offensive line is question mark, especially for tonight with both Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton questionable. They're going to play because they both got in full practices on Saturday. So they'll be good to go. But Becton's had this knee injury for a long time. Brown coming off an injury in training camps, didn't play a whole lot. So there is some uncertainty specifically at tackle for this offense. But I do feel like they're well positioned to make a pretty solid run, which is why actually my numbers have the Jets favored in this game. So let's talk about the way things break down here in the traditional markets. We do have the Bills favored by 2 at FanDuel Sportsbook. The -2 is -110 on both sides. And the Bills money line -130, the Jets money line +110. Total is 45.5. And Ryan, we've seen the money line bounce around a lot this week because I think I took the Jets at 108 or so, somewhere around there. They then lengthened, which feels awful, to 116. Now they're back down to 110. So I want to know, what's your overall read on the traditional markets in this game?
Yeah, the Jets getting, it was 2.5. Now it's down to 2. So like you said, it's been moving all over the place and had been, even when these lines first opened up, which was, around that magic number of 3. And, for me, Jim, it comes down to the Jets kind of getting 2 points here and being a little bit healthier on defense. I think Buffalo for us has to go out and prove it. And I'm willing to, say that they can, because I think if I'm Buffalo and if I'm coaching that team, with Sean McDermott, I'm looking at this and saying, okay, the Chiefs lost, Bengals lost, like these teams are getting exposed. We have a chance to, kind of rewrite the narrative and what people think is the cream of the crop of the AFC. And last year, this was a team that a lot of people had going far. And so you got to be able to do that on prime time, on the road, in a tough matchup. But I do think the Jets, with just those outside corners that they have, I think they make, life a little bit miserable for Josh Allen to be able to find some weapons there. The backfield's kind of changed up a little bit there. And we'll see, adding Dalvin Cook kind of gives another asset to the Jets as well too. And so just because of the teams I feel like are so evenly matched up, I'm going to take the team who's getting the points here and has the home field advantage.
Yeah, the +2 again is -110. Preference for you, where I'm between the +2 at -110 or the Jets money line at +110. I feel like you could probably go either way. I think that your logic here is take the points in a close matchup. So I think you're probably leaning towards the +2, but I don't want to speak for you there.
No, I think, that's always the thing. I think people, you're getting into the betting market, you're like, oh man, I could, double up my money,
right.
or, lay a little bit of the juice. But I do think taking the points here is the right bet. You kind of get into, some type of weird things where, we're already seeing missed extra points and things of that nature. And, you don't want to, you want to give your chance to have that buffer. And it's not, too close. We're not talking about like a, -110 compared to a +180, where it's that much more intriguing to be able to take the money line. So I would just take the points in this scenario.
Yeah, so we are both in the Jets. What could possibly go wrong there? I talked before about how my numbers had the Jets as very slight favorites, and that's not an anti-Bills thing. So there's been a lot of like weird anti-Bill sentiment, not in the betting market, but like in the, I guess, like the media hot take sphere. There's been a lot of anti-Bill stuff. The Bills are third in my power rankings entering the year, just behind the Chiefs and Bengals. So like they're a very good team that my model likes a lot. It just happens to also like the Jets, given the sustainability of their defense, given the fact they have Aaron Rodgers now. So it's a pro-Jets thought and not an anti-Bills thought. I'm excited to be on the Bills probably in the very near future, just not for me for tonight. Let's dive into some player props here, Ryan. The Jets, you mentioned Dalvin Cook. They also added Allen Lazard. So a lot of new faces on this team, which means there's a lot of ambiguity with regards to target shares with these skill position players. So look at the Jets side of things in the player prop department. Where are you seeing value right now?
Yeah, I think for me right now, I'm looking at Allen Lazard. His receiving yards, over 38.5. You kind of like that number, especially with all the talk that had happened, in preseason, kind of leading into training camp, leading into Hard Knocks, of Aaron Rodgers not being able to trust his receivers, and Randall Cobb, former Packer as well, talking about if you're not going to go out there and run the particular route and he can't trust you, he's not going to throw you the ball. And so I don't think we have to worry about that with the likes of Garrett Wilson, but I'm thinking about the guys outside of him. And so, there's a reason why Allen Lazard is on this team. It's 38.5. Allen Lazard hit this number last year of Devontae Adams with the Green Bay Packers 11 times last season. So I think it's a pretty favorable number under the 40 there. And I'd be willing to take a chance on that at -113.
And Lazard, too, last year at least, did get an okay number of downfield shots. That was always my concern with him last year with props, with DFS, was that does he actually get downfield work? He's not like the most explosive player, but he did get some downfield work. And I feel like they'll be willing to push the ball here a bit. So Lazard at 38.5 definitely does make sense. And I also think, Ryan, it sounds like you're avoiding the Jets backfield. And personally, I want to do the exact same thing. I have no interest in betting props here. This could be a nightmare. So I'm on board with that one as well, in just ignoring the Jets backfield. I don't feel the same way about the Bills backfield, though. But I want to ask you first about the Bills overall, because there's more stability here with their props. So when you look at the Bills side of things, which props stand out to you there?
Yeah, I'm thinking, we didn't talk about this at the top, Jim, but I really am inclined to take the under in this game. You know, even without Von Miller on the Buffalo side, I feel like, 45.5, 46 is kind of where it was creeping around for a long time. But, it's a lot of points. And, we're even seeing, a lot of sloppy play to start week one. Unders hitting at a crazy clip again in week one. I think they went 10-4 on Sunday yesterday. And so because of all that, I do think that we are looking at maybe the main pieces to go along, with these teams. And for me, for Buffalo, I just think it kind of relies on Josh Allen. I know they brought in Damian Harris and he could maybe take away some of that goal line work. I still kind of like, Josh Allen at an anytime touchdown prop to be able to find the end zone there. When you're getting plus 160, just from how much of a propensity we've seen him to be able to carry the rock. I'm not probably as bullish on you in the backfield, but I do think James Cook, if we get a rushing and receiving line from this guy, it's going to have some interest and merit for me, not from the rushing ability, but just catching passes out of the backfield, which we know Damian Harris has not been inclined to do. I hate to say he's never done it because we know how that is with guys like Nick Chubb yesterday, who's all of a sudden getting receiving work like coaches say, but maybe they do dump it off to him. But James Cook is by far the better receiver there. And so I like thinking about him getting his line. And then I will talk about somebody else at the tight end position as well, but I see you chomping at the bit to get in here.
No, I agree with you across the board on James Cook. I think that what you said about like waiting for the rushing plus receiving prop is the way I'd want to play things, because I just prefer that market because I want multiple paths to that bet cashing. And especially for a guy like James Cook, where he has that ability to get rushing and receiving work, it's very attractive. So his rushing prop right now is 43.5. I think that's like decently fair. And I think that the concern around Damian Harris, the concern around Josh Allen, things like that are enough where I think that one's probably about proper, and I'd rather not go there. However, his receiving prop is at 17.5, the yardage number, with the over at minus 113. Now you look at like how often Josh Allen targets running backs, and you'll see like, oh, he never throws to them, and which makes sense. You think about this anecdotally, you can talk yourself into it. Like, he's a cannonball. He is a reckless boy who is out there doing crazy stuff, and he doesn't like, why would Josh Allen waste his cannon dumping it off to a running back? But like, if you look at their numbers in the preseason, James Cook was always out there on the passing downs, and he was getting targets. I think that the issue before was that he had Devin Singletary, who didn't really have a lot of juice in the passing game. They tried to add Nyheim Hines. They've been trying to find this pass catching back forever, it feels like. And I think they've got their guy now in James Cook. So I'd agree with you, Ryan, where the best market for James Cook is rushing plus receiving. If we can get a number, I would say 70.5. If I know that's probably going to sound a little bit high, given his rushing number is 43.5, but the receiving one is 17.5. But like, I think if we get a number around there, that's going to be pretty enticing, because I think that he does have two paths to potentially paying that off. His anytime touchdown number is plus 180. I kind of, again, I agree with you where I haven't bet the under here, but I feel like I want to be a bit cautious with anytime touchdown props because I'm worried that it might not be super high scoring, and Josh Allen is always the threat towards the goal line, which takes away work from James Cook. So to me, of the props currently posted, best one for me is the James Cook over 17.5 receiving yards at minus 113. But I agree with you where I do want to check on the rushing plus receiving later on to see what that number looks like.
Yeah, and I'd be really shocked just seeing the receiving line if they were, able to kind of get us into the 70 number. I would imagine it comes in at like 68, 67.5.
Sign me up.
Which would be great. I think any number in the 60, I feel like I'm definitely going to be pulling the trigger. When it gets to like that 70 range, I probably would have to think about it. But again, I think if we're, you're taking the Jets points, you're kind of thinking about this being a low scoring game, but the defense is kind of getting to the quarterbacks. Like maybe James Cook does have the, more opportunities to get the ball in the backfield, both rushing and receiving.
And the thoughts you mentioned about the Jets outside corners do play into that too, because if they're locking down, they're not going to lock down Stephon Diggs, but if they are doing a better job covering Stephon Diggs than your average NFL team, that'll also shovel a bit more targets, a couple more targets to the running back as well. Any
Definitely.
other props you want to mention for tonight's game? Ryan talked about the Josh Allen anytime touchdown at plus 160. Anything else you like as of right now?
Yeah, let's talk about number 88 for Buffalo, Mr. Dawson Knox here. And although it is on the road, this is a Jets team that traditionally, I guess if we look historically over the past couple of seasons, they've been had by tight ends. And, I think especially, when you're talking about last year and getting that secondary, firmed up to where it was, they're maybe giving up a little bit more over the middle of the field and to these security blankets for the quarterback. And Dawson Knox has been that guy for Josh Allen for quite some time here. And I think, the numbers are a little bit skewed because we do have the rookie Dalton Kincaid being in the mix, but what have we been hearing all offseason, Jim? Like, this guy's not a tight end, he's a receiver. And so that does not make me think that there's going to be less Dawson Knox. Maybe there's a little bit more 12 personnel where we see both of them on the field at the same time. But when we talk about, getting into the red zone and needing that, trusted guy, the red zone numbers weren't really there all too much for Dawson Knox. I think he had 6 targets, 2 touchdowns, but I do feel like just getting, 3-1 on the number, over 3-1 at plus 350 for him anytime touchdown seems pretty great. I think he's plus 2,020-1 to be the first touchdown scorer, which I find very intriguing. And so, for me, it's just, and this is the same thing, like, with the Chargers yesterday, Jim, and not to, go on to Sunday too much, but it's just like we've seen Buffalo have the propensity to be able to target multiple guys in this offense. I think a lot of the times we think, oh, it's got to be Stephon Diggs. Oh, it's got to be Gabe Davis. It's got to be Keenan Allen. It's got to be Mike Williams. No, like these guys, like there's a reason why we have Reggie Gilliam props, for Buffalo. Like Josh Allen just is looking for the open guy. And, I think Dawson Knox has been able to score in his career 20 touchdowns because he's been that forgotten guy. And, usually can get open when it gets to pay dirt. So like taking a chance on Dawson Knox tonight.
I think Donald Parham, though, is the primary target on the Chargers, if we're being serious here, though, right?
Unbelievable. Yep.
He's the 1A. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams be 1B and 1C. With
sure.
Dawson Knox, so like you said, I think they're going to run a lot of, 2 tight end personnel. I think they've been calling it 11.5 personnel because 11 personnel means 3 wide receivers. But they have kind of like, and 1 tight end, but they've got like 1.5 tight ends in their formation. Right. If they have Knox out there with Kincaid. So they've been calling 11.5. And like, that to me says that they have like their own like terminology for it. It probably implies that they're both going to be out there quite a bit. And like, you think about their third receiver situation, sounds like Khalil Shakir hasn't really stepped up as of yet. They haven't really gotten a guy to fill that void behind Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis. So I actually think the logic is pretty enticing there. Also, I would say Dalton Kincaid is plus 450. So like you could go at either of them, honestly, I would say. I think that would make sense as well. But Dawson Knox, despite the addition of Dalton Kincaid, still firmly in play as far as being a legit factor in this offense. That is all that we have here for today for this Monday Night Football preview. But as mentioned, Ryan is back with us tomorrow. Talk about some futures markets, talk about some power rankings coming off of week 1, and probably recapping some of this game. Because I'm sure that these 2 teams will be important pieces. We're talking about futures and talking about how we view the rest of the league. To get that as it is posted, make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Also, check us out on the FanDuel YouTube page and over on FanDuel TV Plus. Ryan, it was a delight as always to talk to you. Good luck with your bets and your single game lineups for tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow.
Sounds good, Jim. Looking forward to it. Best of luck.
Same to you. You can find Ryan on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. You can also follow FanDuel Research at FanDuel Research. Have a blast watching Monday Night tonight. Back with you once again tomorrow. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.